Today we're here with an Australian TV icon, from Prank Patrol to Australian Idol. Scott, you've been really successful in media, and I'm really grateful to have you on today. Thanks for coming on.
Mate, it's so good to have you here, crashing my Airbnb in Bondi while I'm back in the country.
For the time you're here, this is a beautiful place.
Oh, it's so good. I'm so blessed with what I do, so it's a pleasure to have you here. And we're just talking about your amazing outfit, but it's all free stuff.
Too kind. Yeah, I'm so fortunate. Even actually the jacket. Bottom half is Commonwealth.
Yep.
But politics look after me with the jackets.
Mate, you're looking slick.
Thank you.
At 21 years of age, I was not looking this smart, that's for sure.
Well, you were dressed up in something a bit smarter. The Prank Patrol outfit.
The vest.
Yeah.
The vest and the chemically straightened long hair.
Yeah.
That's it. My hair's kind of like yours when it gets a bit longer, not as curly. But yeah, for Prank Patrol, I started out using a hair straightener, and I put surfboard wax in my hair to kind of like give it this grit, and then I'd straighten it to make it all emo style. And then I realized you can go to these, like, they're usually in like Chinatown or like Koreatown, these like Asian hairdressers, and they chemically straighten your hair, which basically means it kills your hair and then it stays straight. And that was my Prank Patrol look.
So that you actually come up with your own look. That wasn't the producers putting it on you?
That was kind of big at the time. Like, this sort of emo hair was like in at the time. And I don't know, I just thought I looked really cool. Looking back now, I'm like, you idiot.
It's like iconic.
Part of my look, part of my brand was that big hair. But it honestly looked like I was a Lego guy and you just put like a hair helmet on me. Like, some people are like, is that real? And I was like, yeah, it's my hair. Well, like, I alter it, but it's the hair.
I didn't know that was you doing it. I thought maybe you'd gone in and styled it. You're like, yeah, okay, but you invested.
I wish I could blame it on like the styling team or whatever, but that was 100% me. I thought it was cool.
So how did you get into TV initially? These days with social media, I could see how you could build a profile, then maybe try to get in through that. But before we had any of that, I grew up watching, ABC and all those shows. How did you get into it?
I loved as a kid watching TV, but I love watching shows like Getaway, which is a travel show. And this was before YouTube. So like the only way to see destinations in the world was these travel shows. And I was like, how cool is that? That's a person's job to go around the world to do that. So I always had this vision growing up in school that like, I want to host Getaway. Like, it was just this dream of mine. Got to like grade 11, grade 12, and it started, a push came to shove where I was like, you know what, I'm actually really good at crunching numbers, and I was getting good grades, and I was like, I think I'm going to go into commerce and economics to do finance at university. Mum and dad worked really hard to send me to a private school, and so I was amongst all these like rich kids, and I was like the poor kid of the rich, in the rich kids' school. So I was like, I want to be like them when I'm older. Like, I want more money than my parents had, and so to do that, I was like, investment banking, go down that path. So my favorite subject at school, though, was film and TV. In grade 11, grade 12, I have like a very creative outlook on life, and I have like sort of a quirky brain, which is a blessing and a curse. So I loved editing, loved storytelling through film and TV. First couple of years of uni, was doing commerce and economics, looking around the lectures, and I was like, I can see all you guys will be really rich, and you guys love this, but I'm bullshitting myself. Like, I don't love what I'm studying. I'm doing it, getting the marks, but my heart isn't in it. And so when I was at uni, a job came up at Nova Radio in Brisbane, which was at the time like the new, dangerous, naughty, #1 radio station. They could do anything they wanted. They were cool. They were taking their staff on like private planes for parties. And I was like, this is such a cool company. And so I was lucky enough to get a part-time job while at uni. And that kind of started everything for me. So with them, I climbed the ladder. I started in the street team, giving out like free cans of Coke and doing little 20-second radio crosses where it's like, g'day guys, it's Scotty down here at Indooroopilly Westfield, and we're giving some cans of Coke. Come and see us, catch ya. And like, that was kind of it. But that evolved into using my skills of editing to then going to the radio team. Hey, there's a festival this weekend. Can we take the breakfast team? I'll film them interviewing the music acts, and I'll edit it up, and there's content for online. And then so I was getting paid hourly. So like the more time I did, the more money I made. But then I could also get my friends to the festivals because they were my camera crew. And I was like, hey, if you give me an hour of your time, I'll give you guys AAA passes to like the biggest festival in town. So it was kind of this chicken and an egg thing where also the breakfast team only wanted to interview the headliners. So I was like, well, what about all the other acts? Because I love their music. Can I interview them? And they're like, yeah, sure. So that kind of just started everything. And then that was when ABC launched. There was a presenter search. I had all this experience from Nova, made a casting tape, and then got the job.
Wow. And was your first job out of that the Prank Patrol, or did you...
100%, yeah.
Really?
So it went from 7,000 people applied nationally, and I made it to the... So I put my tape in, and I was like, let's just see what happens.
And you film and edited that yourself?
Yeah. I'll show you it at the end of this. It's like a 2-minute reel of just... It has
still
to be
got it?
2 minutes. Oh, it's on YouTube, but hidden. And yeah, it was basically long, goofy head me, and I was just being myself.
Yeah.
And I was like... At the time, I didn't want to do kids' TV because I was like, I want to do MTV or Channel V, like these cool music shows. I don't want to be like, hey, kids, like the Wiggles. But I was like, if I just go on as myself and they like it, then it could work out. And when I was 21, I didn't look like you. I looked like I was 15. I looked like this tiny little kid. So it was hilarious. So yeah, put the tape in, and then 7,000 applied. I got to the top 100. And so then I was living in Brisbane. I went to this like studios in Brisbane. There was like 25 other people, and we were all like, oh, what's happening? We don't even know what's going on. I'd never been in front of a professional camera before. So I was kind of shitting myself. But then once again, I was like, just be yourself. If you don't get anything from it, it's all good. That led to like a few weeks later, the top 15, and they flew us all down to Sydney. So at this
15
point,
of you guys?
Yeah, guys and girls, 15 of us. And so then I got a free trip to Sydney, and I was like, what the hell's going on? Like, I was excited but nervous, and I was like, this is wild, what's happening? And then, yeah, like 2 weeks later, they were like, we want to offer you the role of Prank Patrol. And at this point, I was actually bummed to get that because there was another role, which was like Kane and Amberley's role, which is the network hosts. So they were doing like the breakfast show, and I was like, I want that. Like, that's the better gig. And they're like, nah, you're going to move to Melbourne in 2 weeks and do Prank Patrol. And I was like, as if I was going to say no. So like dropped out of uni, didn't tell my friends why. They all thought I was nuts. I was at a 21st that next weekend, and I was like, hey guys, I'm moving to Melbourne. And they're like, we've got exams in like 5 weeks. And I was like, I'm out. I'm going to go chase TV dream. It was so dumb. They must have known I had a gig, but yeah, it basically, that's what began, like, has put me in the position now. Day one on Prank Patrol, I had no idea what I was doing, but I just embraced the whole process.
Did you have any idea how big and successful it was going to become at the time?
Not at all. So it was actually a Canadian format. So it started in Canada, then the UK did their version, then we were the last to do our version. So we had the UK director fly over for our first 3 episodes and basically be like, hey, this is what it's going to be like. And also, this show is massive in the UK. So just so you know, like, Aussie kids are going to eat this up. And I was like, yeah, cool, whatever. And, you know, we shot our first season. So that didn't come out till 9 months later. And then it aired for the first year and, like, didn't really become as big as it was. It wasn't probably till after we finished filming, like, the second season that we were like, oh, this is like, Aussie kids are loving this. Until then, it was just like, do my job, go home, whatever.
And then it kind of blew up and started to get a bit of traction. When people did start to notice you and recognize you around the streets, did you have like a mentor or someone that could teach you through that process? Because as someone who's been in social media and it kind of blew up with the Olympics, I felt, I had no one to ask questions about.
Kind of. We actually did, I think about 2 seasons in, have like media training from the ABC. And that was interesting. It was just that, but that was more so protection of us, of like, you know, the more that you're on TV, people will feel like they know you better and better. And you could find yourself in a position out in the public. And these are ways to like shut down conversations or get yourself out of sticky scenarios. So they definitely did arm us for that. But then you just got to kind of teach yourself. And like, I think there's just a duty of care if you're on TV, especially on like a kid's show. And now like all you guys are in your 20s, but still there's like a duty of care for me being on a show like that to like not abuse that power and to be making sure that you're in the best light possible, being a leader and a mentor to these younger Aussies. So it's never told. That's never part of the job. That's never told when you're getting the job. But you got to kind of take on that duty yourself.
Because when you're acting and you're following your dream and you're loving it, I suppose it's not something you think about, but a part that does come with that.
Totally.
So now it's been a few years now.
Yeah. Mate, I didn't have grey hairs before, all right?
Mate, there was the bleaching. It was the chemicals.
Yeah, it could have killed. I actually used that excuse when I started going. I started going grey at like 26.
Yeah.
25, 26. And I was like, what the hell? Why am I going grey? And it was like, one summer I bleached my hair like platinum blonde, but we did it in the backyard with like chemical bleach, like from the pool area almost. And it was definitely burning our scalps. And after that, the grey started to appear, and I was like, oh, it's because I dyed my hair blonde. So I used that excuse, but I think I was just going grey early.
Over the years, it's just copped too many chemicals from Prank Patrol that...
Mate, there's been a lot going on.
Now, with Prank Patrol, it's been a while. Has any of the pranks been fake? How real was it? How raw was the experience for the kids being pranked?
It was 100% authentic. Like, what you see is what you get. We got caught out 3 times. So 3 pranks out of about 105 or 110 we did. I think Google that, you can check. But we only got caught 3 times. There was a couple now that I've met kids that were like, oh, my friend was on it or I was involved in it. They actually knew going into it because their friend at school told them.
Gotcha.
Or called them up. Was like, hey, tomorrow we're actually going to prank you. And I was like, oh my, you ruined it. But like, we as the production team didn't know they were in on it. But they definitely would have been the ones that we didn't get a big reaction.
Yeah.
Because you can't fake those genuine reactions. Like, no matter what happens, you can't fake it. You can't be like, oh, now act surprised. Because they'll be like, whoa. And you're like, that's not real.
Yeah.
So, like, when you get that genuine fear or reaction, that's just authentic moments.
Did you have to cut any because there was no reaction or not the reaction you needed?
We had to do some where had to do pickups. We had ones where, like, you know, I'd burst out as like a robot from a wall and the kid was like, we're like, oh my God, we're a kid's show. So we had to do like use the camera angle behind his head so you couldn't see his mouth effing the whole time.
Yep.
And then we had to get him to go, hey, can you just give us some audio of like, So like, of course, we're a kid's show. We couldn't show swearing. And a few where just, they like, weren't appreciating they were in Prank Patrol, where they're like blowing up at their family. Their like sister might have pranked them, so that she was like, there were some moments.
What about the cameras? Could the kids see the cameras around? What was the explanation for the cameras being there? Or were they all hidden?
They're all hidden.
Okay.
Yeah. So in a typical prank, we would like do like a build. And so a lot of the time, a mirror on a wall, there's a camera guy in that wall. So say if we were doing it inside here, we'd actually build another wall like a meter out and then put like picture frames or mirrors there. And then that's when a camera guy can be inside the wall. So the hardest one to execute that we did was at a school in Melbourne. And then that meant on the Sunday we had to rehearse. And so we had to get the kid that was pranking their friend to sort of block through what was going to happen on the Sunday. Because as soon as you're on a school campus and any kid sees a camera or a camera crew, they're all like, what's going on? Not about prank, just more so like, TV's here, like, what's going on? So then that day, we had to have all our camera crews in the walls by like 6 a.m.
And they had to stay there all day?
Full lockdown. Well, no, we did the prank in the first period of the school.
Yeah.
So we did the prank at like 9 a.m. So we're all in complete lockdown. Like I had to like hide out and just wait until you could hear the students coming and then like bang, prank was on.
So what about the ninjas? I had like some random suspicion that maybe you were a ninja sometimes. Did you ever dress up as a ninja? I just have this suspicion.
There was an episode, part of the gag on the show, I was a ninja.
Okay.
But no, I was never a ninja.
Okay.
No, they could do like cartwheels and flips and they were very good at what they did.
And who were the ninjas?
I can't reveal. I'll never reveal that.
It's been years.
They might have changed from state to state.
Okay.
Yeah, because like when we're traveling around, there's a huge expense taking the whole team.
Yep.
And
the ninjas were expensible. We'd find new ones.
Look, all they needed was this. Just good eyes. Good eyes to be able to do a flip.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're in. You're in.
Just go to any gymnastics and yeah, you'll do. Come, we need you for Wednesday. What about the van? What happened to the van? Did you take any memorabilia from the show? Like, is there something you keep?
I didn't take enough. Like, I don't have the jacket. The production company still has the jackets. No, I I had a few of the shirts, but then I ended up chopping up the shirts and giving them away. So this is when Facebook was really big, and so there were all these meme accounts, and I was like, oh, I'm going to mess with these guys. And I ran a competition, and I was like, who wants a Prank Patrol shirt? And there was like 400 people replied. And I was like, well, you can't all have it. I go, what about if you want a piece of a Prank Patrol shirt, I'll chop it up and mail it to you. And so then 400 people replied. And I was at work. I was working on a music show at the time, Channel 10. After hours, just chopping up this shirt and like getting an envelope. It took me like weeks.
You're mailing it yourself?
Yeah, I did like the hand wrote, okay, to this person. There's people out there that's still like, I've got part of your shirt.
The joke come back on him. He had to sit back do it himself.
Yeah, joke was on me.
What about the best prank that you did? Which one were you most proud of?
The best prank was the one at the school. I think it was because we pranked 3 13-year-olds, which isn't easy to do. We had a helicopter. We had like a fake SWAT team. We had the school principal in on it. And that was actually, have you seen Summer Heights High? You know the principal in Summer Heights High?
Yeah.
She's a real principal at a school in Victoria.
Oh, wow.
So she was in on the prank as well. They all started crying. There was betrayal. So, yeah, basically, like, it was called the internet crash. And, excuse me one sec, guys. I got to sip water. It's called internet crash. These three students thought they were responsible for crashing the internet Australia-wide. They then thought they were on the news. We had a helicopter flying outside of the classroom, doing a fake news report, going, yep, the internet has gone down in Australia, and we've figured out where the source of that was. It was right here. So they landed. Principal calls them in the office. Now, the kid in on the prank basically did all the troublemaking, and in the principal's office, she just hung the rest out to dry. She's like, it was their fault. And the look on their face is like, how dare you? And it was so good. And then, like, I'm giggling out the front, being a SWAT team member. And I'm like, come out with your hands up. But I'm like laughing in this megaphone. Yeah. Peter, my director's like, stop laughing. And I'm like, this is so funny. And so, yeah, that was just, it was a beautiful, we created that prank, and watching the whole execution was amazing.
It's flawless. That would be so satisfying.
Oh, it was the best. Just laughing. Laughter was not free. It costs a lot for a Prank Patrol episode, but it's so good watching people get each other.
There's a prank that, well, I suppose wasn't an intentional prank, but cost one of my friends their captaincy. My friend Cal.
I did not know he didn't get school captain because of this.
He invited you, so this was after Prank Patrol days, and he invited you into his school captaincy speech, so he'd win school captaincy.
Yeah.
And the principal had told him that if you come on stage, he's going to be cancelled from being school captain because it's an unfair advantage.
So what happened was, here and there, I just love tapping into, like, when Aussies come up with a funny, creative idea, I'm like, sure, if I've got time and I can do it, I'm in. And so your friend did, I think he DM'd me, or a lot of his friends DM'd me, and they're like, do this. And I was like, you know what? I'm actually in Sydney. I can do it. So I drove down to his school in Cronulla, checked in, but like had to be like sort of hiding incognito. The staff were like, what's going on? I think him or one of his friends were like helping me sort of liaise me through the school. They're like, okay, check in here. Now come into and hide in this room. Assembly was on. And then I just busted out and I was like, hey, release the ninjas. And like, everyone went wild.
Yeah.
I think it was, I wasn't allowed on the stage. So technically I didn't go on the stage.
Okay.
Maybe I did. Maybe I did at the end.
What a boring principle.
What, honestly,
that's un-Australian.
I did not know that he didn't get that, and that's so disappointing. We need to get him on my TikTok and like have like a redemption story there. Get him the captaincy back.
I think he was so excited to have you there, and he just didn't want to like lose that laugh. And I heard everyone loved it, and they all put in the votes for Cal, and then they had to re-vote because he'd won, and they said he was disqualified, and then they did more votes for Cal, but he deserved it.
Cal got robbed, just like Shannon Knoll in Australian Idol. Cal, that was a great robbery. What year was it? Was he grade 12?
Oh, would have been probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. Let's get him that captaincy back.
He deserves it.
Would he have been a good school captain?
He actually deserved that before he even went for it. He's such a good man. He went and like got solar power put on the roof to save energy for the school, and then built like a framework so other schools could go out and do it. He does a lot of sustainable stuff with me now. Honestly, he would have been the best rep for that school. And for someone to take the initiative to go and get someone like yourself to come, I think that initiative deserves more respect than taken away.
Oh, damn, that sucks.
Terrible.
That's right. He didn't need that job anyways.
He's a busy man. So I want to ask Scott, what do you think sets you apart? That edge. I noticed you mentioned earlier that when you had the opportunity to go on the radio, you took it. You offered to go and do this. You thought about doing that. You're quite creative. What do you think gives you the edge and allowed you to keep moving forward in nearly the most competitive industry, TV?
It's a great question, Sam. I think for me, I don't love the word hustle, but I create a lot of my opportunities. So I don't think I'm the best presenter in the world. I don't think I'm the best like editor or broadcaster, but I love doing those things. And so if there's not an opportunity there or I miss out on an opportunity, I'm not angry at the people that are casting it or the network. I'm just like, cool, for whatever reason, that's not the right time and place for that job for me, but let's create something equally as cool. And so then I'll go out and meet people I just genuinely love working with people, and like the teams that I work on TV shows, I adore them. From the runners to the directors to the camera guys, like we aren't saving lives, but we are trying to make people feel better and just have like a bit of escapism from whatever's going on in their world. So I think I've been successful because I've just always created the next thing for myself and gone, cool, like I'm doing this right now, but my next thing, what could it be? I almost like pushing that boundary of people saying no. And then if they say no, it's like, well, why not? And go, well, let's find a way. Yeah. Let's figure it out. And, you know, some of them have been successful. Some of them haven't worked out, but that's fine. So, yeah, I think it's just working really hard, but loving when I work hard, not being like, oh, I'm grinding. It's just like, no, I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah. When you're passionate about something, it's so much easier. You don't even realize you do it.
Yeah.
Like when I wake up and I go training and then I come home and edit and make my videos and then I go back to train, then we're up late at night putting it all together. Like, you could say you're working all day, but you don't feel like it. Like you just love it, and you think that love and kind of pure enjoyment for what you do is what's carried you through.
Yeah,
the whole.
And I like the fact that Australians have welcomed me like into their households, being this host of shows. And then I really enjoy then that connection. If I see them out in public or whatever, I'm like, great, like what we were making and working hard towards, you guys have enjoyed it. So it's kind of like an honor and a privilege going, well, you know, for ABC, it's taxpayers' money. It's like I got chosen to host that, so I got paid to do that, and it's for you guys. So like, thank you so much. Yeah. And I also just think people individually, everyone's got a cool story, and everyone does something cool, whether they think, oh, I'm boring, I do this and that. It's like, no, that's sick. Yeah. So, like, I don't know. I just enjoy that fact of, and that privilege I have of, like, I feel like I've got so many mates out there in Australia. And, like, if I go to a pub or I go to, like, an airport and people are like, Scotty, I'm like, God, this feels good. I've got friends everywhere. It's sick.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I feel like if I was to, like, ever be in a really sticky situation, I could just put a post on TikTok and be like, Australia, like, I'm getting smashed right now. Can you guys help me out? And then just got this army. Be like, let's go. Yeah.
I've heard that about you, that Scotty's got a real cult following behind him. I've heard that. So
I don't know if it's culty, but they're good blokes.
Yeah.
And good chicks.
They'd come to the rescue.
Yeah. Oh, they're just cheeky, honest, fun people.
Yeah. That's Australians, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we like someone that can be a bit fun. Like, I feel like as Australians, we like to have a laugh at ourselves, and I feel like when you do that, people are like, we do that. That's such an Australian thing.
I also just disagree with like a lot of people, not a lot actually, but there's people in the industry that just think they're better than anyone else, and it's like, nah, we are all just the same. Like, honestly, and that's why I have no problems interviewing very famous people, because I'm like, you're just people. You're very talented, and you've had success in what you do. But you're no different to that person there. Like, just doesn't matter. We're all just doing our thing in life, and your thing, a lot of people are attracted to and think it's better, but you're just a person.
Is that how you deal with pressure? If you're going into a scenario where you're on a live show in front of thousands of people, or you're interviewing someone that's really famous.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you deal with that pressure?
Well, I enjoy it because it's not about me. So I make it about you. Like when I'm interviewing someone or doing all the programs I do, it's not about me. It's about either the show itself, the people on the show, or driving the show in a certain direction. So that's easy then. It's like, yeah, cool. I'm just trying to guide everyone and the viewers through this amazing experience and make it entertaining at the same time. So I find that's kind of it. Like you only get nervous and put pressure on yourself because you don't want to let other people down.
Yeah.
And you don't want to let the show down, and you don't want to lose your job because you're like, oh, this is what I do. But as soon as you can get that mindset out and you're like, no, we're here to have a good time. And like, how good's this? Like every day before going on Australian Idol, Ricky Lee and I will just have like 5 seconds and we're like, God, we're lucky. Like, how good's this? Yeah. How good's our job? And then go out there and there's this screaming audience. Now, they're not screaming for us. They're screaming for the show and the contestants. But we're like, yes, it's so good.
Yeah. Have you ever found if you slip into that other side of feeling a little bit stressed, do you have any strategies or ways you've found to move over to that sense of excitement? Because I know similar to when I compete, when I feel that sense of excitement and I'm keen to get out there and put down my dives, I always dive better and I always feel good and I enjoy the experience more. But when I'm a little bit more nervous and you've got more of those thoughts coming through, I find that is a much more difficult place to compete, and trying to move over can be difficult.
Yeah.
Have you had any strategies or found your way moving through that?
For sure. It's just that like stillness of the mind. I think it's a quick little meditation, or even it doesn't have to be like a meditation, but just knowing to block out like when there's lots of noise in your head, to just like have different strategies. So for me, I'll listen to a song or music, or I'll tell my team in my dressing room, like if I'm feeling kind of like there's a lot of pressure coming on, there's lots of different things I have to do. I was like, guys, can I have 5 minutes? I just need to chill out and just like relax. So I think that's it. Like some of my friends will do breath work stuff. For me, I'd love to do more of that, but I just need like 5 minutes to then stop, breathe, and that can reset your mind a lot. And then once your mind's clear, everything else just like glides.
Yeah, once you're in the moment, everything's so much easier to deal with.
And back yourself as well.
What do you think would be one of the biggest challenges you faced in your career? Or a challenge, because I know in the pool there's been, for example, a dive that I thought I wouldn't be able to do, or a competition I never thought I'd be able to win. And then you kind of come up with a strategy, or you turn up one day and it works. And you're like, this is something I thought was impossible. Was there a goal or a challenge that was really hard but you got through it?
I think the common challenges are rejection. So like you either from an audience or from, because like if an audience doesn't like what you're doing or the show you're doing, you're out of work. Like that's just the game I'm in. It's entertainment. So like rejection is definitely a big one. And like if I start to see, I'm pretty lucky. Like I haven't had too many negative comments, but you start to, the more popular a show gets, like Idol in our second season now is a lot more popular than the first season. And with that popularity comes more people watching it. And with that comes people criticizing you. So like in the comments, I get slammed here and there for different things. And it's like, that's just part of it. Yeah. And it's like, if I could ever meet these people and have a beer with them, I think they'd think differently. If they still don't like me after that beer, that's fine. Like whatever, I can't change that. But it's like unfortunate, like I'm like kind of like, damn, if I am coming across that way, I wish I wasn't, but that's unfortunate. That's who I am. I think also in the game I'm in, it's financially, you have big highs and you have periods where you don't earn money. And that's all part of it. I've been really lucky to pretty much go from job to job, but I found myself in the US going from a very successful job in terms of like the contract, not the show itself, to then it was a 3-year deal, and a year and a half in, it got cut. And I was like, okay, I'm here in New York City, very expensive lease, and the cost of living's high. Got a savings account, but like, what do I do now? And it's like, do I play it safe, go back to Australia, and I'm more familiar in that market, or do I stick it out here in the US, take a risk, invest in what my skills are, because it's a bigger market here, and I want to creatively do bigger things globally. So I was like, I need to be in the US, and I took that risk, and then that means you second guess yourself every few months. You're like seeing the money go down, and you're like, okay, I'm building my networks, building my opportunities, but I haven't had a paying gig now for a few months. Then that goes to a year, and you're like, all right, what does this mean? And so sticking that out, though, I've shot through the other end, and now it's all starting to work for me in the US. And it's funny, when it rains, it pours. And then with that came Idol, as another gig here, which only takes up 3 months of my time. So, yeah, there definitely was periods there, though, where I'm like, had to say no to going out to dinners, friends' birthdays, because I'm like, I'm going to spend $300 tonight, and like, I want to save that money. So you got to sacrifice in those moments. So that's it. And I think the other thing is just more, I'm 36 now. I'd actually would love to be married at the moment, but I just haven't had the right timing with a girl. And so investing in relationships is a big deal for me. Like I've had longer term girlfriends. I've had like a 7-year, a 5-year, a year and a half now. It seems like it's getting smaller. I got that. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to having that great partner in life where we're like running together. I don't really want to drag someone on, but it's funny. Like whenever I talk about relationship stuff with people, which is really important to me, my parents have been married for 40 years or 35 years. So like I look up to them.
Good on them. Yeah.
But I'm not putting pressure on myself because it's like my life, I am hard to date in terms of like, I live a little bit here, a little bit there. I'm very motivated. I'm doing lots of different things. So I'm not racing into it, but that's my next thing I want to like invest time and effort into.
What kind of partner would you be looking for? How do you find, or like, what would you be looking for? Someone that does something similar to you?
That's
or
$1 million question, man.
Okay.
I don't think there is a formula. Like you have this idea in your mind, but
you want someone to run with you.
It's a timing thing, right? It's like timings with different people. But then also, I think if you find the right person you want to make sacrifices for and invest time and energy into, you can make that work as well. Do I want an Australian that lives in LA? Yes, ideally. That'd be great.
Happy to come back for a few months a year.
Am I, when I'm back here dating? Not really now, because it's like, it's unfair. Because like if I connect with someone, then it's like, I live over there. So I either want to try and convince them to move over there, or it's just going to be harder. So I'm only like, when I get back to LA, open to dating again. But in saying that, like, if you meet someone awesome and you get that feeling, you can't help that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what that looks like. I do get turned on by a smart girl that's like got her own thing going on, and whatever that could be, though, it doesn't have to be professionally, but it could be they're passionate about a charity. It could be they're passionate about having a family. But like if they have ownership of what they want to do and like are so confident in that or working towards that, I find that a turn on for sure.
It probably really supports you as well, because then they don't, I suppose, need all your time because they're really happy with their own thing, and then you can complement each other moving forward.
Totally. Yeah.
With the US, because that's a tough market to crack from what I've seen for Australians. And you said it was a little bit hard when you first moved over there. How did that process start when you moved to LA and tried to initially build that out? How did you get traction, and then how did you get your first gig?
So I was lucky. I actually moved to the US with a gig. So I got a job on E! News, which is part of NBC. So it's a very big network, and I always that was a dream of mine to get on that show, and I figured out how to do it. And so I, for 4 years, was like flying over to the US, having meetings, planting the seed. Ryan Seacrest, producer, became a mentor of mine because I DM'd her randomly. So I just figured out a way and then got that gig. So that made it easier to get there, for sure, for me, compared to other people that pack their lives up and move there with a bunch of money and they're couch surfing. I definitely went with an advantage of a job.
Yep.
But then that stopped. And then when that stopped and I was in LA, that's when it sort of got harder for me. We are so blessed being Australians. Our connections being Aussies and the American relationships with Australians, but then also the Aussies over in the US that are doing cool shit. And mate, we're just we're badass over there. They
love the accent.
They love the accent, but we work hard. But then we also enjoy our downtime. Mm. Whereas Americans work harder in terms of hours, but I don't think they work smarter. And so that's a huge generalization, because there's lazy Americans and there's bloody driven and amazing Americans. There's lazy Australians.
Yeah.
But this is a generalization of what I've seen. But Australians, our gift, I think, is networking, and bringing people into our community, building communities where we live, whether it's New York, LA, Austin, around Aussie cafe culture. That's a big one. And at the end of the day, yes, we do like really good coffee and good breakfast, but I think it's that time with baristas and like that community that you get, even if it's for 5 minutes, that resonates with Americans as well. They're all like doing the drive-through Starbucks and stuff like that. And when they meet Aussies, they're like, no, you guys are like, you're a mafia. Like you all look out for each other, and it honestly opens up doors over there. But you have to invest the time and the energy of just, you can't be desperate as well. You can't be there like just trying to seek everything out of. You got to build these connections with people, and then that's when the opportunities come.
Because we went over for a little bit of a trip and saw LA, and
I bet you hated it.
I didn't actually love it.
How many times have you been there?
I've been there once, and
exactly. Here's my thing.
I did have this sense that there's so much that I don't particularly know about, and I'm sure that it's all hiding behind doors.
Yeah. First, I tell all my friends, your first 2 trips to LA, you'll hate it. Because you're not seeing the real LA. You're going to these stupid bloody tourist destinations. There's homeless everywhere.
Yeah.
It looks like a hole, and that's the unfortunate thing. But also, you want to do that as a tourist. You're like, I want to go see this, see that. Once you hang out there with locals and you get to see like the little communities everywhere and the people that are there, it's such a great place. But I'm not there to convince everyone, but a lot of people, when they spend more time, they're like, I'm really enjoying LA.
So it took a while to kind of get into the
It's not that, land in Sydney or Melbourne and be like, this is the best city in the world.
Yeah.
You usually get to LA, you're like, this is a hole. Why is everyone here? What's going on? But then there's layers to it. And also, all the areas in LA are different. West Hollywood's different to Santa Monica. That's different to Venice. That's different to Silver Lake, where all the hipsters are. And like, there's so many different sides to the city.
And is it still that super hub that we're kind of believe that it is? Is it still where everyone goes and where there is a whole bunch of success and driven people trying to achieve their dreams? Or has that died off a little bit?
No, there's that and more. Particularly, so where I live in Venice Beach, you've got the actors, but most of the actors are in West Hollywood. You got actors, you've got the hippie spiritual people, the namasteyers that are into the latest whatever craze and phase it is, milking a carrot and I don't know, having mushrooms at this time of the day and like whatever it is. Yeah. You got those people. You got the billionaires. Like there's actual billionaires, but they're very understated. So they're wearing like the most casual clothing. And your friend's like, oh yeah, no, he just sold his company for like 1.2 billion. And you're like, and then you've got like the creatives. You just got this boiling pot of really cool people that are all coming together in a place that's on the beach where the crime rate is so high. So like every time I leave a bar or restaurant and walk home, I'm like, I could get shot tonight. Like,
what do you do to protect yourself? Because
never wear a watch on the street there at night. Like that's stupid. Never like I avoid eye contact walking home, just because you never know. Like it's a risky place, but we take on that risk living there.
It's kind of like high risk, high reward.
Yeah, yeah. Some would say they're like, is it a lot like Bondi? I'm like, yeah, kind of. Except at any moment you can get stabbed. And actually, the beach is like polluted.
They're like, yeah, no, I'll stay in Bondi.
Yeah,
yeah.
Wow. I enjoy it. I enjoy the rush.
Okay. And there's a lot of opportunity over there because I'd love to go over and do my social media there one day and see what the US has to offer.
Brand deals are like wild, man.
But when I went there, I was like, And then,
nah, you haven't seen. Have you been into like the OC and different parts of California as well?
No.
It's beautiful. Like north of Malibu, south of even just Venice, there's like El Porto, Manhattan Beach. Beautiful.
So for someone that, say, someone like myself wanted to go over to the US and have a crack for any creator or actor, what would you recommend? Because I literally went there and I was like, it's so sad. There's so many homeless people. But I also had this sense that there's a big side I don't see. I'm like,
yeah. Next time you come there, come and see me and I'll show you like a local's point of view.
Yeah.
Because that's what I got. I kept visiting there for work. I kept going over there for Channel 10, doing junkets for films. And each time I go there, I'd connect in with more and more locals. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. There's like another side I didn't know existed.
Yeah. I might do that next time I go over. I might flick you a message.
100%.
Scotty, let's maybe make LA nice this time.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
here you
We'll
go
cruise
there.
around, and like you want to drive yourself around as well. You want to go like all the way around different parts, and you'll be like, "Oh, this is actually really cool." Yeah.
Now the DJing, I've seen some sold out venues.
My midlife crisis.
Something I just had no idea that you did.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Okay, so since the Nova days, have been very ingrained in music. So like Nova music, 21 years of age, loved it. Started doing Prank Patrol, but like was always listening to music. Then after Prank Patrol, I actually hosted a music show for 8 years called The Loop. So that was every single week for Channel 10. We were going to concerts, interviewing artists, working with record labels. So like music has been a part of my life. When I'm editing, I'm always listening to new music. So when I moved to Sydney at 23, I moved into a 6-bedroom house, and 2 of the guys that lived in the house worked for Red Bull, and they were like the Red Bull DJs. And this is when Red Bull were throwing like wild parties. They had budgets for partying. They were doing sport, but partying was their thing.
Yeah.
And so just by like association of living in that house, I learned how to DJ with the boys. And then we would throw New Year's Eve parties at our house. We'd throw like just mid-year parties. And so I just loved DJing. Like I was doing it, but never to like perform anywhere or never to do anything with it. When I moved to New York, I started the E-job and COVID hit. And so our studio shut down. New York was in lockdown for like a month. But then the next sort of 2 or 3 months, it started to open up. But all the restaurants and bars were only takeaway only. So they were only doing takeaway cocktails and drinks. And for the first time ever, it was legal in Manhattan to drink on the streets. Normally you can't drink on the streets. But all these bars, their rent wasn't reduced. So they're stinging. They're like, we don't have the tourism. We're losing every month, like thousands of dollars. So me and a Melbourne boy were at a cafe, an Aussie cafe one day. And this guy, an Italian guy called Pietro, came up and we're like, Pietro, how are you? And he's like, God, I'm shit. And we're like, why? And he's like, I just have no customer. This is my Italian accent. Sorry. I'll go back to me. He's like, no customers. And he's like, it just sucks. And so Gus, he was from Melbourne. Gus and I were like, we could probably DJ out the front of your restaurant, of your bar on like Thursday night. And he's like, yeah, cool. So Gus and I, he bought off Amazon these tiny decks. I bought a shitty speaker off Facebook Marketplace for $100. We invited all our friends and we're like, Thursday night, 6 p.m, sundown and drinks and cocktails at Pietro's in Nolita. And we had this massive crew rock up. In the first 20 minutes, we blew the speaker. So my friend had to bring his like home theater system, this Bose like sound bar. It was so funny. But it was a cracking night. He made a load of money and everyone had a good time. So then the next week we're like, let's buy a bigger system. So him and I put in some money and we bought like this like $3,000 decks and like sound system. The day before we're like, Pietro, we good for Thursday? And he's like, oh no, you can't come back. And we're like, what? He goes, you brought too many people. He goes, I'll get shut down. There's like COVID laws. You can't. And we're like, what the hell? So we had these bloody DJ decks. So throughout that whole New York summer, we would just play wherever we could. And I just fell in love with it again. Then I moved to LA. I started playing in my Venice apartment. I threw a party the second week I moved there because I didn't know anyone. So I was like, all right, Aussies, bring all your friends. We'll have a party at my apartment. My apartment overlooked Muscle Beach, or did at the time. And so it was amazing. And my roommate was opening a restaurant and bar in Venice called Market in Venice, which became like the hottest place in town.
Good on you.
So he heard my style of music and he's like, Tweedie, I love your taste of music. Can you DJ at the bar? And I was like, oh, here and there. And I actually just started, I love doing it. So they're 4-hour DJ sets as well, which is like a long time to play, but you get that whole vibe of what people like and don't like. And I just fell in love with it again. And so when I was coming back for Idol, my friend owns a bar in Sydney and I was like, one night only, I'll play there. And we like 100 people came. It was hot and sweaty. And it was just so fun, but it was more just like watching the joy of my friends and like having a good time. So then when I was here last October, I was like, I had a night off in Adelaide. And I was like, I'm just going to put this out there on TikTok. I can't do it at my friend's bar in Sydney again because I'm out of days. I've got one more night in Adelaide, then I fly back to LA.
Did you even have a venue?
No, so I just literally put on TikTok. I was like, Adelaide, I want to throw a party. I don't know where or when, but look, if you have some DJ decks and a sound system and you guys bring the vibe, let's see what happens. And this post, just the algorithm did its thing. And then all of a sudden I had all these bars and nightclubs like, play here, play here, play here. And I was like, oh my God. So we found this venue. It was like an 800-person venue called the Lion Arts Factory.
Do they pay you to come in to DJ?
Well, no. Then we just... Because the guy... I was like, the purpose of this is not to make money. It's just to have fun.
For fun.
It's like to get good energy. And the venue's like, well, look, we don't know how many people are going to come. It might be no one. Like, we don't know if TikTok views actually equals people coming. So let's just do like a $10 ticket and we'll drop the ticketing link and see what happens. And this guy's like also trying to get me to play in his like dirty, dark, like rave club. And I was like, dude, I want this to be like, you know, like a house party vibes. I don't want it to be like nightclub. And I'm like, and I'm not like a performing DJ. I just like play for house parties.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be like up on a stage with like lasers and shit. And it's like, here's Scott Tweedie. I just want to be like in the mix with people.
Yeah, you'll be more low-key. Like,
Yeah, just keep it like... So he's like, yeah, well, you can do it at my like 300-person like nightclub with all the lasers and stuff. And I was like, no, bro. I was like, I want the bigger venue and I'll put the decks in the middle of the room, boiler room style, because then it can just be a good vibe. And he goes, well, all right, here's the thing. We'll put the tickets on sale. We'll say secret venue. And if you get more than 400, then we can go to the bigger venue. Within like 15 minutes, it was like sold out to 800. It went wild.
15 minutes.
It went wild.
It's got like one of the fastest DJ events ever.
Like, then I'm going, shit, what am I going to play? What am I going to do?
They're going to back it up.
There was such... It didn't matter. It was like a nice reunion with that. Once again, the ABC3 crowd that are now like 20 to 25 bracket, plus then other few people that just love music coming together. So that was Adelaide. A few weeks ago, I was like, I'll do it again.
Melbourne?
Did Melbourne. Same sort of tactic on TikTok. And I was just like, Melbourne, who's keen? And if literally only 10 were keen, I'd do it in a kebab store. I was like, yeah. And I'll just scale it to like what the reaction was. But once again, Melbourne were like, we're keen. And I was like, oh my God. So we did at an 1,100-person venue and that sold out in 4 minutes. It was wild. Man.
Wow.
And it was the best night.
And these venues, you put it on TikTok, they reach out to you and they're like, let's do it.
Yeah, well, because they get the bar.
Yes.
And then we just have to cover the costs of like production. So we brought in speakers, security fencing, all that sort of stuff.
Who do you call for security? Do you just have like a mate that...
Well, no, that's the venue that
Oh,
covers
okay.
that. Yeah. So that's why you work with a venue then. But I like the challenge of only giving 7 days notice because then it all happens fast.
Yeah.
And you're like, so... We're doing Brisbane in 2 weeks. So I'm going to do a Brisbane one because I'm from Brisbane.
Yep.
So once again, it's going to be like the scramble of like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Because like, if that TikTok doesn't go off, that's the only way to market it.
Yeah.
But it usually the people find it.
I love that TikTok algorithm. It's so like location based as well.
Yeah.
Like I post about my jet ski and because I don't wash it out properly, the engine breaks down and I make videos about like just laughing at myself that I can't maintain it. And then I go out in the water. They're like, "Oh, have you washed your jet ski, Sam? Oh, it's actually running today." Like, I love it how when you make a video in location,
it finds the people.
It finds the people.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's good, and that's what you got to remember. That's the amazing thing about you can build a community, and that's what I'm actually loving about the DJing stuff. Is once again like the music is all cool, and that's a lot of fun, and I am obsessed with music, so I love playing music. But for me, it's more about like just bringing cool people together and dancing, having a good time. Yeah. Like it is what it is. We're just having a dance party is fun.
Yeah, it's so fun to just try to pull something off real quick. Is that just like a personality trait? You like the excitement. You like kind of a bit rogue without playing. What's that for you?
Yeah, I like challenging myself and feeling nervous. So like we're talking to a venue at the moment for Brisbane. And it's a risk because, like, if no one comes, we're in trouble. But it's like, but if people do come, it's going to be the best thing ever. Like, it's a venue that's...
Is it the biggest one?
It'll be a little bit bigger, but I think that's a magic number. I don't want bigger than that because it's like, you want it intimate still.
Yeah.
It's 1,300 people that can go there. But they've never done a boiler rave in this, like, location or destination before. Or theatre, it is. So it's like, It's something new. It'll be so funny to pull off.
So are we going to see more of this in the future? Is it a possible future gig for Scotty, the DJ?
I think so. Because I'm going to go back to the US after this. And the Melbourne one, I actually flew in. So also for me, I was like, okay, what does this mean? Like by putting on this event, I can bring a crowd and they're all like the old Prank Patrol audience. 90% of them, right? Yeah. And so I was like, I'm not a musician or making music. And so I had a mission this year to make one dance track. And so I found this Aussie guy in LA called Ollie. He's 23 and he's so talented, like so talented. I saw him live in LA and he's like kind of like a Rufus Hayden James style of music. He just wrote a track with Hayden James. So like he's at that level.
Yep.
So him and I became friends and I was like, Ollie, I want to make a track this year. Can you help me? And he goes, mate, I got a studio. Let's get in there. So we've done 2 1-hour sessions. And I've got another friend that's a composer that makes music for films, for ads. And he's like, dude, you should get into it. He goes, I know your vibe. And he goes, you got the right vibe. And I go, but I'm not trained at all. Like, I don't even know how to play the piano and stuff like that. He goes, who cares? You can just figure it out. He goes, it's about the vibe. And he goes, as long as you're having fun. He goes, as soon as you're not having fun and you're trying to force something, it won't work. He goes, but if you go in there and have a good time, doesn't matter. And so that's what Ollie and I have done 2 sessions and I loved it. It was sick. So when I announced the Melbourne one and it started getting traction, I was like, Ollie, you've got to come back for this. And he's got a new track out. And I was like, come back, DJ with me, play your music. The audience gets to hear your music. And so out of the budget, I flew him back and he came back for it. And it was so good. Him and I just laughing the whole time. Like, what is this? What's going on?
That's right. You pulled off in the week and you got international DJs flying in.
So Ollie and I want to do them in the US. We've got to figure out the game plan, but like, it's just so fun. It's so cool to do. And like we win because we enjoy it. The audience has a good time. So hopefully the Brisbane and the Sydney ones are a huge success. And then I can take that energy back to the US with Ollie and we can play around.
It's such a good opportunity for him if he's trying to get his music out as well.
Totally.
That's a win-win.
I'm like a marketing vehicle for you and put your product in there.
Yeah, you can come in. So that's what you're trying to work towards at the moment?
It's
like a side?
It's like a passion project. Yeah. It's like a passion project that I'm really enjoying.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so fun.
And what's your goals for the future now? Like, where do you see
goals for the future? Basically, like refining what I'm doing now, but just like scaling it more. I think I still love being very hands-on and like getting my hands dirty with creative projects. So I think it's building out a team. So I've got a company in the US and it's like literally just me and another guy right now. So it's like building that out, but not getting too, I just don't want to get too big where the pressure's on.
What's the company do?
We're basically like a creative studios. So we do and have equity in like some companies to do all their marketing and to come up with campaigns for them. I'm an ambassador for some of the companies. We create TV formats and sell them to like Warner Brothers, ITV. So like selling TV shows, the ideas. Wow. So we sold 2 last year. We've got like 3 in the pipeline this year. So they're just like, basically, here's the structure of the show. Here's what it's called. Here's what's involved in the show. And then you sell it to a production company and then they go make it.
Wow. So you're kind of writing shows at the moment that you sell?
Yeah, but they're all unscripted. So the writing isn't as important. It's more about the format. Because you want to create a format that like around the world, it could work in any country.
That's incredible. Yeah. And is that something that has opened an opportunity from being in the US?
Yeah.
Could you do that here or you couldn't?
Could do it here because Australia's a really good testing market for the world. But as you see now, like with Netflix, Stan, Binge, whatever, streaming Paramount, it's a global game. So a lot of Aussie productions are getting made here, but they're actually for a worldwide audience. It's not just for Australia. So we're kind of playing in that field, but from the US.
Have you always been quite entrepreneurial?
To an extent, but I'm definitely leaning towards more the creative side. Like I do a lot of projects with people and I'm like, what's the budget? And I'm like, spend all the money. Because I'm like, let's make it bigger and better. And like, they're like, no, stop. So I definitely have to have business partners to like rein me in for budgets because I just don't care. I'm like, let's go. Like, let's make the coolest thing. Yeah. I'm there for the experience and the happiness of people rather than the profit. I think that's such a smart decision getting equity for a marketing exchange because it's a way to get some skin in the game and build yourself outside of. But then you believe in the product and the company as well because then like you don't want equity in something you don't believe in the people behind the brand or what the brand's doing. So if you care enough, it's smart for the brand as well, because then I'm like, I want this to go the best it can.
Yeah, well, it sounds like everything you do is such a win-win, from like getting your mate's music DJing and then presenting for the audience. That's such a good trait that it looks like you're bringing everywhere.
It's just good to have lots of different things going on, but my problem is I probably have too many sometimes, so that's where I've got really good management to go, stop doing that. Like, what? He calls it squirrels. He goes, Tweedie, you have a lot of squirrels running around up there. And he goes, what we've got to do is, because you can have them all, but just let's put a few of them in a cage for a while. And he goes, work on the other ones, and then and that's fair enough.
How long you worked with that manager?
His name's Nick Fordham, so he's Aussie based.
Yeah.
He's amazing at business. Probably since I started in the US, so 3 years. Yeah, so I started with him, and then about a year and a half later, we got Idol. So
wow,
yeah, it was like that sort of started that whole new chapter for me.
And then you've got a US agent as well.
Yeah. What's your goal? What's your big? Let's talk about post Olympics, post swimming. What do you want to do, Sam?
It's a good question. I'm someone who really follows my passions and like what I enjoy doing, what makes me happy, and happy to take a risk.
Yeah.
If diving ended tomorrow because of an injury, like I'd be somewhat okay with it.
Yeah.
And then I'd move on to following whatever I loved at the time. Like this podcast that we've started, and it's a bit makeshift with our bloody hangers over here to make sure the mics don't fall down.
Very impressive.
Thank you. I like going out and just having a crack. And at the moment, I'm not sure where. I've got my social media stuff that I'm building out and that I love making content. And I feel like where the world's moving and what I've seen, it's opened up so many great opportunities for me. So it's something I want to continue to invest in. I've done a little bit of TV stuff here and there. It's such a fun industry. I'd love to get more into the TV stuff as well.
Yeah.
So more social media, kind of TV and all that fun stuff. That's where I have the most fun, and that's probably what I'd like to keep doing.
Yeah. Mate, I mean, for 21 years of age, you're killing it.
Oh, these
and don't forget to be young. Like, enjoy doing fun things. Enjoy these like little micro failures here and there because you're trying stuff. Just like be fearless in what you do. But I think you're on the perfect path.
I appreciate
I've got no notes.
I think just willing to fail. Like, even when I remember the first episode we did, it took us 2 hours to start filming because I didn't have the right cables.
Yeah.
Like, I suppose you'd find that doing all these new projects, you just have those micro failures and you just keep
totally
moving.
It's like you just got to back yourself.
Yeah.
You have to back yourself. It's all well and good, but I get that some people out there, they've got to put food on the table for their families and stuff like that, and that's where the pressure's on. So right now I've got this amazing opportunity where I don't have a lot of those pressures, so I'm like trying to go as hard as I can. Because, soon I want to invest my spare time in a partner, and I want to invest that spare time in like what we create as well. But right now, it's just like me, myself, and I. So like I'm trying to give back in little micro moments with like younger people if I can assist them to like come on the Idol set, or with Ollie, I'm like, here's an opportunity. That's what I'm trying to do. But at the same time, failing for me is not as risky as for other people, where it's like if they fail, how are they going to pay their rent?
Yeah,
and that's harder for people like that. So I always say, take risk and fail, and I can at the moment. So that's helpful.
Yeah, and similar for me, I'm quite young, fortunately, and I can take some risks.
The craziest thing is like the worst case scenario for me in the US is like run out of every dollar and move back to Australia. And like I'm lucky enough to have parents that still are together in a house. So like that's my basement. And if that's like the worst thing that can happen, like, of course, amongst my friends, I'd be like, Jesus, what happened to Tweedie? He's back at home with his parents. But like, that's not a bad basement. Like that is, we are so gifted to be Australians, and we can go anywhere in the world, but the worst case scenario is we come back to paradise.
That's something that I hold with me every day. Like just being grateful for like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I live in a beautiful country. We can breathe fresh air and
we look after our people.
Yeah, and everything else is a win. Like, we're so grateful for where we live. Like, I love our country, and I'm so proud to represent Australia when I go overseas to compete. And I'm always happy to come home. But I think about that as well. Like, no matter what failures I have competing or in business, I'm here and we live in a good country.
Yeah, I find it also like the advantage of living overseas is you lose those pressures of your community here, which a lot of people put that on themselves.
Those
so
expectations.
So it's like, all right, by a certain age you should have a house. By another certain age you should be married. By a certain age you should have kids. You know, you should be able to show and go on holidays to Europe and whatever. And it's like, I think a lot of people, particularly like growing up in a private school, I see people that still live in Brisbane, their value and their read on success is those things. And it's so nice not to have that shit and live overseas. You're like, we set our own standards of like, what is success for us? And there's none of that pressure. And I think people get that when they move to other cities as well. So I do feel sorry for people that just put so much pressure on themselves. But it's like, do you? Like, it's your life. Do you? Who gives a shit about your best friend, about your neighbor, about this and that? It's like, but sometimes you get so caught up in that world and that community that it's hard to forget that.
I feel like the only way to really get yourself out of that is to leave and to have some time out.
Yeah,
like,
for a period. For
even when I take a break just being overseas and I come back here, I relook at the way I do everything. Like, why am I doing that? Why am I doing this? Does this actually help? Should I be doing that?
Yeah.
Like, even when I take a bit of a break, and I suppose you have this too, you sometimes rethink everything through a positive way and how you can do things better. And I've found the best ideas or changes in my life I've had is when I've gone away for a big comp for a month or two and I come home and relook at what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and what's making me happy. Because I feel like being happy and enjoying life is the main thing.
It is the main thing.
It has to be.
It's the main thing, but we sometimes forget about it because there's just so many pressures on us that you're like, yeah.
Yeah, I love my job. I love Australia.
Best of luck at the Olympics.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
How are you feeling going into it?
We got our trials in June, so I've got a good few months of training, and I've been training hard and putting everything into it. It's such a high risk, like high reward feeling though, because you go into a trial and touch wood, I've always made it through. But you're either going to make it and continue on for months, or you're kind of done for the season. And
what does that mean if you're done? Like, what do you do?
Well, I suppose after the Olympics, you just take a long time off. You just take a few months off. But I'll take a few months off after the Olympics, hopefully.
Yeah.
But our trials are in June, and I tell you what, there's nothing beats that feeling when you've just stood up to the pressure, hit your dives, seen you in the position to make the team, and you can just relax and celebrate with your coach and your team. That's like one of the greatest feelings ever. But you only get that from going through such stressful, hard training over a long period of time and dealing with the pressure of the comp. Because sometimes morning of the comp, you honestly think to yourself, like, why do I do this? Like, why do I put myself through it? And then you come out the other side and you're like, I'm just so glad you endured for that couple of days.
Yeah.
Because I love training. I love diving. But during those really pointy ends of the stick, those are stressful times. And it's just because you care. It's just because you care.
You care. You're putting the pressure. You have a standard for yourself, and you know you can deliver that. But if you fall short of that, you'll be so pissed off at yourself.
Yeah,
that's it.
But it's a fun balance we live on. And again, if anything doesn't happen, we live here in Australia. It's okay.
Totally. Oh, mate, you're set.
No, I appreciate it.
You're set.
Thanks for the chat.